The coffee shop's bell chimed as Marcus Chen pushed through the door, his eyes immediately scanning the crowded interior. He found her in the corner booth, exactly where she'd said she'd be, but something was wrong. Sarah's hands trembled as she wrapped them around her mug, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Thanks for coming," she whispered, not looking up as he slid into the seat across from her. Marcus studied her face, noting the fresh bruise on her wrist that she'd tried to hide with concealer. "What did he do this time?" "It's not what you think." Sarah's voice cracked. "I mean, yes, David hit me, but that's not why I called you." The familiar rage built in Marcus's chest. David Morrison had been making Sarah's life hell for months since their divorce, showing up at her apartment uninvited, calling her workplace, making threats. As Sarah's closest friend and the private investigator she'd hired to document his harassment, Marcus had seen the escalation firsthand. "Sarah, we've been through this. You need to file a restraining order. My photos and recordings are enough evidence." "He knows." She looked up, her green eyes wide with fear. "About us. About the investigation. Everything." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "How?" someone told him. "Someone who knew details only you and I should know." Sarah's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Marcus, I think David has someone watching me, watching both of us." The implications hit him like a physical blow. If David knew about the investigation, all of Marcus's carefully gathered evidence was worthless. Worse, it put Sarah in immediate danger. "Pack a bag," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the alarm bells going off in his head. "Right now, you're staying somewhere safe until we figure this out. I can't run forever. You won't have to. But until we know who's feeding David information, you're not safe at your apartment." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Detective Rivera. She's been wanting to nail David for months." Sarah grabbed his wrist. "There's more." Marcus waited, dreading what she might say next. "David's brother called me last night, Luke Morrison. He says he wants to help." The name hit Marcus like a punch. To the gut. Luke Morrison, David's younger brother. The successful architect who'd supposedly distanced himself from his family's dysfunction. Marcus had researched the entire Morrison family when he'd first taken Sarah's case. What did he want? Said he has information about David. Things that could put him away for good. He wants to meet. Marcus shook his head. "Absolutely not. It's a trap." "What if it's not? What if Luke really does want to help?" Sarah's desperate hope was painful to watch. "Marcus, I'm so tired of being afraid. If Luke has evidence, then he can give it to the police. Not you." Marcus leaned forward. "Sarah, listen to me. You avoid David's family entirely. All of them. That includes Luke." She nodded reluctantly. "Okay, you're right, I'll avoid them." But as they left the coffee shop together, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. Somewhere in the city, David Morrison was planning his next move, and Marcus had the sinking suspicion that they were walking straight into his trap. 3 days later, Marcus got the call that changed everything. "She's missing, Detective Carmen." Rivera's voice was tight with frustration. "Sarah Morrison hasn't been seen since yesterday morning. Her landlord found her door unlocked, apartment empty, no signs of struggle." Marcus gripped his phone tighter. "What about the safe house? She never showed up." "Marcus, we need to talk. There are things about this case. I'm on my way." The police station buzzed with activity as Marcus made his way to Rivera's desk. The detective looked up from a stack of files, her expression grim. "Before you ask, we've issued a bolo for David Morrison. He's in the wind, too." Rivera gestured to a chair. "But that's not what's bothering me." Marcus sat, his mind racing. "What do you mean? Your surveillance photos? The ones showing David harassing Sarah?" Rivera slid a folder across the desk. "We ran them through our database. Facial recognition came back with something interesting." Marcus opened the folder, his heart sinking as he saw the images. The man in the photos looked like David Morrison's same build, same dark hair, same general features. But the facial recognition? Software had flagged discrepancies. "That's not David Morrison harassing Sarah," Rivera said quietly. "That's his brother Luke." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at the photos, seeing them with fresh eyes. The man he'd been photographing for weeks, the man he'd assumed was Sarah's abusive ex-husband, was actually Luke Morrison. But why would Luke? That's what we need to find out. Because according to our records, David Morrison has been in Seattle for the past month, working on a construction project. He has dozens of witnesses placing him there on the dates these photos were taken. Marcus's mind reeled. Everything he thought he knew about the case was wrong. Sarah said. Luke called her, wanted to help when 3 days ago, the night before she disappeared, Marcus felt sick. She was going to meet him. I told her not to, but what if she changed her mind? Rivera leaned forward. Marcus, there's something else. Luke Morrison has a record. Sealed juvenile file, but I pulled some strings. History of obsessive behavior, stalking charges that were dropped. He's been in and out of therapy for years. The pieces began falling into place with sickening clarity. Luke Morrison had been impersonating his brother, systematically terrorizing Sarah while David was hundreds of miles away. And now Sarah was missing. We need to find him, Marcus said, standing abruptly. We're trying, but Luke's smart. He's covered his tracks well. His apartment's been cleared out. His office says he's taken indefinite leave. Rivera handed him a business card. This is his therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell. She's agreed to speak with us, but only if you're present. Why me? Because according to her, Luke Morrison has been talking about you for months. He's obsessed with you, Marcus. And he's been using Sarah to get to you. What do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. For more thrilling stories, Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell's office was a study in calm neutrality, soft lighting, comfortable chairs, and the faint scent of lavender. But the tension in the room was palpable as Marcus sat across from the therapist, Detective Rivera beside him, taking notes. I want to be clear, Dr. Hartwell began, her voice measured and professional. I'm only sharing this information because I believe Luke poses an imminent threat to himself and others. Patient confidentiality has limits. Forward. Tell us about Luke's obsession. It started about 6 months ago. Luke began mentioning a private investigator who was interfering with his plans. He was convinced this person was trying to ruin his life, steal his opportunities for happiness. Dr. Hartwell consulted her notes. He spoke about you frequently. Mr. Chen, he'd researched your background, your cases, your personal life. What kind of research? Rivera asked.
Extensive.
He knew about your military service, your transition to private investigation, your relationship with your sister, even your coffee preferences. The therapist's expression grew troubled. Luke has a pattern of fixating on people he perceives as obstacles. In his mind, you represented everything standing between him and Sarah. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted Sarah. He was convinced she was his soulmate. He'd been watching her for months before the divorce, waiting for his opportunity. When she hired you, he saw you as a rival who needed to be eliminated. So, he impersonated his brother, Rivera said, putting the pieces together. Made it look like David was the threat. Exactly. Luke is brilliant at manipulation. He convinced Sarah that David was dangerous while positioning himself as the protective brother. He fed her information about David's supposed plans, created fake evidence of threats, all while being the actual source of danger. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Where is he now? I don't know. He missed his last 3 appointments. But Mr. Chen, there's something else you need to understand. Dr. Hartwell's voice dropped. Luke doesn't just want to eliminate you as competition. He wants to become you. What do you mean? He's been studying your methods, your cases, your entire approach to investigation. He's convinced that if he can prove himself superior to you, if he can solve a case you can't, then Sarah will see him as the better choice. Rivera and Marcus exchanged glances. What kind of case? His own disappearance? Luke has orchestrated an elaborate game where he's both the victim and the perpetrator. He's hidden Sarah somewhere, then provided clues that only someone with investigative skills could follow. He wants you to come after him. Marcus stood abruptly. He's turned this into a twisted competition. More than that. He's created a scenario where he believes he wins no matter what happens. If you find him, he proves he's your equal by having orchestrated such an elaborate plan. If you don't, he keeps Sarah forever. What about Sarah? What does she think is happening? Dr. Hartwell's expression grew pained. Based on Luke's sessions, I believe he's convinced her that David has taken her, and that Luke is trying to rescue her. He's probably told her you're either dead or that you've abandoned her. He's systematically destroying her trust in everyone except him. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Where would he take her? Somewhere with personal significance to him. A place where he feels in control, where he can create his perfect scenario. The therapist pulled out a folder. I've compiled a list of locations Luke has mentioned during our sessions. Family properties, places from his childhood, locations tied to significant memories. Rivera took the folder. We'll check these out. Detective Mr. Chen, please understand Luke is not just unstable. He's dangerous. He believes this is his one chance at happiness, and he'll do anything to protect what he sees as his happy ending. As they left the office, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Game starting, Marcus. First clue. Where do broken hearts go to heal? You have 24 hours. Come alone, or Sarah pays the price. Marcus showed the message to Rivera. He's watching us. This is it, Rivera said. He's made his move. Marcus studied the cryptic message. Where do broken hearts go to heal? Could be a metaphor for anything. A hospital, a church, a counseling center, no? Marcus's mind raced, connecting the dots. Sarah mentioned something once. After her divorce, she went somewhere to think, to process everything. A place that was special to her. Where? Marcus was already heading for his car. The lighthouse. There's an old lighthouse north of the city where Sarah's grandmother used to take her as a child. She said it was where she went to heal after David broke her heart. As he drove through the darkening streets, Marcus realized the terrifying truth. Luke Morrison hadn't just studied his investigation methods. He'd studied Sarah's past, her emotional vulnerabilities, her deepest memories, and now he was using all of it against them. The game had begun, and Marcus was playing by Luke's rules. Lighthouse stood sentinel against the storm-dark sky, its white tower stark against the jagged coastline. Marcus parked his car in the gravel lot, noting the single other vehicle, a black sedan with tinted windows. Luke was here. The wind whipped around him as he approached the lighthouse keeper's cottage, service weapon drawn but hidden beneath his jacket. Detective Rivera and backup were 20 minutes behind him, but Marcus couldn't wait, not when Sarah's life hung in the balance. The cottage door stood slightly ajar, creaking in the wind. Marcus pushed it open, his senses on high alert. The interior was dim, furnished with antique furniture and maritime memorabilia. A fire crackled in the fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Marcus. The voice came from the shadows. Near the stairs, Luke Morrison stepped into the light, and Marcus was struck by how ordinary he looked. Medium height, brown hair, pleasant features, nothing that screamed dangerous predator. But his eyes held a cold intensity that made Marcus's skin crawl. Where is she? Safe for now. Duke smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. I have to say, I'm impressed. You figured out my first clue faster than I expected. This isn't a game, Luke. Sarah is an innocent woman. Innocent? Luke's laugh was bitter. She hired you to destroy my brother. She was going to send David to prison for crimes he didn't commit. How is that innocent? Marcus kept his voice steady. Impersonated David. You were the one harassing her. I was protecting her. From herself, from making terrible choices. Luke began pacing, his agitation growing. She was about to ruin her life, and David's life. And for what? Some misguided sense of justice. You terrorized her for months. Tested her. Wanted to see if she was strong enough, worthy enough. Luke's eyes blazed with fervor. And she is Marcus. She's perfect. She just needs to understand that you're not the hero in this story. I am. Marcus scanned the room, looking for any sign of Sarah. Where is she? Upstairs. In the lighthouse itself. She's waiting for her knight in shining armor to rescue her. Luke's smile turned predatory. The question is, which one of us is going to climb those stairs? Let me see her. Let me know she's safe. Luke pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. After a moment, he turned it toward Marcus. The video showed Sarah tied to a chair in the lighthouse's lamp room, her eyes wide with fear but alive. She was saying something, but there was no audio. She's asking for you, Luke said. She wants to know why you abandoned her. I didn't abandon her. You took her. I saved her. From a life of looking over her shoulder, afraid of shadows, jumping at every sound. Luke's voice grew passionate. I can give her peace, Marcus. I can give her love. What can you give her? Freedom. Luke's expression darkened. Freedom to make the same mistakes over and over. Freedom to trust the wrong people. Freedom to get herself killed. Cass realized with growing horror that Luke genuinely believed he was the hero of his own story. In his twisted mind, he was saving Sarah from herself, from Marcus, from a world that would hurt her. She doesn't love you, Luke. She will. Once she understands that I'm the one who's been protecting her all along. Once she sees that you're not coming to save her, I'm here now. But you're not going to leave. Luke pulled out a gun, keeping it pointed at the floor, but making his intentions clear. You see, Marcus, I've studied your cases. I know you're the type who always has to be the hero. You'll never stop coming after me, never stop trying to save Sarah from her own happiness. Marcus calculated distances, angles, his chances of disarming Luke before he could fire. Oh, what do you want? I want you to understand that you've lost. That Sarah chose me over you. She didn't choose you. You kidnapped her. I rescued her. From you, from David, from everyone who would hurt her. Luke's grip tightened on the gun. And now, I'm going to rescue her from the fantasy that you're coming to save her. Sound from upstairs, a thump, followed by what sounded like a chair falling over. Luke's eyes flicked toward the ceiling, momentarily distracted. Marcus moved. Marcus tackled Luke around the waist, both men crashing into the antique coffee table. The gun went off, the bullet embedding itself in the wooden ceiling. They rolled across the floor, fighting for control of the weapon. Luke was stronger than... He looked, driven by obsessive desperation. He managed to get his knee up, driving it into Marcus's ribs. Marcus gasped, his grip loosening for just a moment long enough for Luke to break free and scramble toward the lighthouse stairs. Sarah, Luke called out as he ran. Sarah, I'm coming. Marcus forced himself to his feet, his ribs screaming in protest. He could hear Luke's footsteps on the metal stairs, echoing up through the lighthouse tower. Above them, Sarah's voice muffled, but definitely calling for help. The lighthouse stairs were a spiral of rusted metal, narrow and treacherous. Marcus climbed as fast as he dared, his service weapon drawn. Each step rang out like a bell, announcing his presence to Luke above. You're too late, Marcus. Luke's voice echoed down from somewhere above. She's already chosen. Marcus pushed harder, taking the steps 2 at a time. The lighthouse was taller than it looked from the outside, easily 100 feet of climbing. His legs burned, his lungs ached, but he kept going. At the halfway point, he heard Sarah's voice more clearly. Let me go, Marcus, if you can hear. Me, he's got a gun. I'm coming, Sarah, Marcus called back. No, Luke's voice was getting closer. You're not taking her from me. Marcus rounded the next curve in the staircase and saw Luke waiting for him, gun raised. The space was cramped, barely wide enough for one person, let alone 2 men fighting for their lives. Don't make me kill you, Marcus. Sarah doesn't need to see that. She doesn't need to see any of this. Let her go, and we can work this out. Laugh was unhinged. Work it out? You destroyed everything. You turned her against me, made her think I was the enemy when I was trying to save her. You were stalking her, Luke. Terrorizing her. That's not love. That's obsession. It's protection. It's caring enough to fight for someone. Luke's hand shook as he aimed the gun. Something you obviously don't understand, or you would have. Found her sooner? Marcus took a careful step up, closing the distance between them. I'm here now. Too late. Luke fired. The gunshot was deafening in the confined space. Marcus threw himself sideways, the bullet sparking off the metal handrail where his head had been. He crashed into the lighthouse wall, his shoulder taking, the brunt of the impact. Luke was already running up the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. Marcus followed, his ears ringing from the gunshot. Just a few more flights, and he'd reached the lamp room where Sarah was being held. "Sarah," he called. "Out. Are you okay?" "I'm here, Marcus. Be careful." Her voice was cut off abruptly. Marcus heard the sound of the lamp room door slamming shut, followed by the metallic click of a lock engaging. He reached the top of the stairs to find a heavy wooden door barred against him. Room Sarah was tied to a chair in the center of the circular space, surrounded by the massive lighthouse lens. Luke stood behind her, the gun pressed to her head. "Stay back," Luke shouted through the glass. "I'll kill her, Marcus. I swear I'll kill her before I let you have her." Marcus pressed his hands against the glass, his heart breaking at the sight of Sarah's terrified face. She was saying something, but he couldn't make out the words through the thick glass. "Luke, listen to me," Marcus said, raising his voice. "You don't want to hurt her. You love her, right? You want to protect her?" "I do love her. That's why I can't let you ruin her life." "Then prove it. Let her choose." Luke's grip on the gun wavered. "What?" "Let her choose between us. If you're so sure she'll pick you, then let her decide freely. No gun, no threats, no fear. Just let her choose." Through the glass, Marcus could see Sarah nodding frantically. She was trying to tell him something, her eyes wide with urgency. "She's already chosen," Luke said, but his voice lacked conviction. "She chose me when she came here willingly." "Did she? Or did you trick her into coming here?" Luke's face flushed with anger. "Saved her, brought her somewhere safe, away from David, away from her freedom to choose." The words hung in the air. Marcus could see the conflict playing out on Luke's face, the warring between his obsession and some deeper part of him that knew what he was doing was wrong. "I just want her to be safe," Luke whispered, and for a moment he sounded like a lost child rather than a dangerous kidnapper. "Then let her be safe. Let her choose her own path." Luke's hand shook as he lowered the gun slightly. "But what if she chooses wrong? What if she gets hurt? It's not your decision to make." For a long moment they stared at each other through the glass. Then Luke's expression hardened again, and he pressed the gun back against Sarah's head. "No, I won't lose her. I won't let you take her from me." That's when Marcus noticed what Sarah had been trying to tell him. Her hands, tied behind the chair, were pointing towards something on the floor. A crowbar probably left behind by maintenance. Workers. Marcus had one chance. Marcus grabbed the crowbar and slammed it against the glass panel. Safety glass spider-webbed, but held. He hit it again and again, until finally the panel gave way with a shower of glittering fragments. "No," Luke screamed, swinging the gun toward Marcus as he climbed through the broken window. But Sarah was ready. The moment Luke's attention shifted, she threw her full weight backward, toppling the chair and pulling Luke off balance. The gun went off, the bullet going wide, as both Sarah and Luke crashed to the floor. Marcus dove through the opening, landing hard on the lamp room floor. It was scrambling to his feet, still holding the gun, his face twisted with rage and desperation. "You ruined everything," Luke screamed, aiming at Marcus. "She was perfect. We were perfect. Luke, don't." Sarah's voice was hoarse but strong. "This isn't love. This isn't what I want." Luke's hand trembled as he looked between Marcus and Sarah. "But I saved you. I protected you, did everything for you." "You terrorized me," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her fear. "You made me afraid of shadows, afraid to trust anyone." "That's not love, Luke. That's control. I kept you safe."
Oh.
"You kept me prisoner."
Now
literally. Sarah struggled against her bonds. "If you really love me, you'll let me go." Marcus slowly reached for his weapon, but Luke caught the movement and swung the gun back toward him. "Don't," Luke warned. "I'll shoot." "I know you will," Marcus said calmly. "But Sarah's right. This isn't love. This is obsession. An obsession always destroys what it claims to protect." Luke's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted someone to love me. Someone who would choose me. Can't make someone choose you, Luke. It has to be freely given, or it's not real." But what if she chooses wrong? What if she gets hurt? Then, that's her choice to make. Her risk to take, her life to live. Luke looked at Sarah, really looked at her for the first time. She was crying, but her eyes were filled with pity rather than fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry you're in so much pain. But this isn't the way." Luke's shoulders sagged. The gun wavered in his hand. "I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to let go." "You start by putting down the gun," Marcus said gently. "You start by letting Sarah go home. And then what? I go to prison. I lose everything. You get help, real help, from people who understand what you're going through." Luke stared at the gun in his hand as if seeing it for the first time. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to be chosen." "I know," Marcus said. "But you can't force someone to choose you. You can only be worthy of being chosen." Slowly, Luke lowered the gun. His hand shook as he set it on the floor and kicked it away from him. Then he collapsed to his knees, his face in his hands. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I just wanted someone to love me." Marcus quickly moved to untie Sarah while keeping one eye on Luke. The moment her hands were free, she threw her arms around Marcus's neck, her whole body shaking with relief. "I thought you weren't coming," she whispered against his ear. "I'll always come for you," Marcus whispered back. "Always." The distance, they could hear sirens approaching. Detective Rivera and backup were finally arriving. Luke looked up at them, his face streaked with tears. "Will you tell them I cooperated? That I didn't hurt her?" "I'll tell them the truth," Marcus said. "That you're sick and you need help." They waited for the police to climb the lighthouse stairs. Sarah held Marcus's hand tightly. "How did you know I was here? You told me once that this was your healing place, where you came after David broke your heart." Sarah's eyes widened. "I never told you that." Marcus felt ice in his veins. "What?" "I never told you about the lighthouse. I never told anyone about the lighthouse." They both turned to look at Luke, who was smiling through his tears. "I told him," Luke said softly. "I told him where to find you. I wanted him to come. I wanted him to save you." "What?" Marcus's mind reeled. "But you said," I said, "I wanted to prove I was better than you. But the truth is, I wanted to prove you were better than me. I wanted to prove that someone would actually come for her when she needed them." Luke's voice broke. "I wanted to prove that she was worth saving." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. This entire elaborate scheme hadn't been about winning Sarah away from him. It had been about proving that Marcus was worthy of her love. "You orchestrated all of this," Marcus said in amazement. "The kidnapping, the clues, the chase you wanted me to rescue her. I wanted her to see that someone would move heaven and earth to save her. I wanted her to know what it felt like to be truly loved." Luke wiped his eyes. "I could never give her that. But I could give her you." Sarah stared at Luke in shock. "You put me through hell to prove a point. I put you through a test. To show you that Marcus would never abandon you, never stop fighting for you, even when it seemed hopeless." Luke's smile was sad but genuine. "I wanted you to know what real love looks like." The police finally reached the lamp room, Detective Rivera leading the way with her weapon drawn, but the crisis was over. Luke surrendered peacefully, his hands already raised in submission. As they led him away, he looked back at Sarah one last time. "I'm sorry I scared you, but I'm not sorry you know how much he loves you." And with that, Luke Morrison was gone, leaving behind only the echo of his words and the dawning realization that sometimes the most twisted acts can spring from the most genuine emotions. The tension is building. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which character you're rooting for. Your support helps me create more incredible stories like this one. 2 weeks later, Marcus sat in his office reviewing the Morrison case file one final time. The paperwork was complete, the evidence cataloged, the reports filed. Luke Morrison was in custody, undergoing psychiatric evaluation while awaiting trial. David Morrison had returned from Seattle, shocked to discover his brother's elaborate deception. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." Sarah entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a small smile. She looked better than she had in months. The The dark circles under her eyes had faded, and the constant tension that had marked her features was gone. "Thought you might need caffeine," she said, setting one cup on his desk. "Thanks." Marcus closed the file folder. "How are you doing?" "Better. Dr. Hartwell says it's normal to feel conflicted about what happened. Luke terrorized me for months, but in the end, he was trying to." She paused, searching for the right words. "It's complicated." "Doesn't have to be. What he did was wrong, regardless of his motivations. Don't owe him forgiveness just because he was mentally ill." Sarah nodded. "I know. But I can't help wondering what would have happened if someone had gotten him help sooner. If his family had recognized the signs, if the system had intervened before he got to this point." Marcus had been wrestling with similar thoughts. "Dr. Hartwell says Luke's been struggling with obsessive behavior since childhood. His parents covered it up, got him therapy, but never addressed the root causes. They just taught him to hide. His problem's better. Is that why he was so good at manipulation? He'd had years of practice concealing his true thoughts." "Exactly. And when he fixated on you, all those years of suppressed obsession had an outlet." Marcus took a sip of his coffee. "But Sarah, you need to understand something. None of this was your fault. Luke made his choices. He had resources, he had opportunities to get help, and he chose to act on his obsessions instead. I know that, intellectually, but emotionally, ... Sarah sat down across from him. "I keep thinking about what he said. About proving that you loved me." Marcus felt his chest tighten. They'd been dancing around this conversation for days, both of them aware that Luke's actions had forced emotions into the open that they'd been carefully avoiding. "Sarah, did you know? Before all this happened, did you know how you felt about me?" Marcus met her eyes. "Yes, I knew." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you were vulnerable. You'd just come out of an abusive marriage. You were dealing with David's harassment, and you'd hired me to help you. Getting involved with you would have been taking advantage of your situation." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "What about now? Am I still too vulnerable?" "I don't know. Are you?" Instead of answering, Sarah stood and walked around the desk. She leaned against the edge, close enough that Marcus could smell her perfume. "Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Okay." "When you were climbing those lighthouse stairs, knowing Luke had a gun and might kill you, what were you thinking?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I was thinking that I couldn't let him hurt you, that I'd rather die trying to save you than live knowing I hadn't tried. And if I hadn't been there, if it had been someone else Luke was threatening, I'd have done the same thing. It's my job." "No." Sarah shook her head. "Don't give me the professional answer. Give me the real answer." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "If it had been someone else, I would have waited for backup. I would have followed protocol. I would have been a good cop instead of a desperate man." "Why?" "Because I love you." The words came out quietly, simply, but they carried the weight of months of suppressed emotion. "Because the thought of losing you made me reckless. So I couldn't bear the idea of a world without you in it." Sarah smiled, and it was like the sun coming out after a storm. "That's what I needed to hear, Sarah. I don't want to pressure you. You've been through hell, and you need time to process." She silenced him by placing her finger against his lips. "Marcus, I've spent the last 2 weeks thinking about what Luke said. About real love. About someone who would move heaven and earth to save me. And I realized something." "What?" "I already knew you loved me. I'd known for months. Every time you dropped everything to help me, every time you put yourself in danger to protect me, every time you respected my boundaries, even when I could see how much you wanted to cross them, I knew." Marcus felt his heart hammering in his chest. "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was scared. Scared of trusting someone again. Scared of getting hurt. Scared of making another mistake." Sarah's voice grew soft. "About one thing, I do know what real love looks like now. And it looks like you." Marcus stood, closing the distance between them. "Sarah, are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. I don't do casual relationships. Don't do temporary. If we do this, it's for keeps."
I know.
That's what makes it real love instead of just attraction or convenience or fear of being alone. Sarah reached up to touch his face. I'm sure, Marcus. I'm sure about you. He kissed her then, soft and gentle at first, then deeper as months of suppressed longing finally found expression. When they broke apart, both were breathless. So what happens now? Sarah asked. Now we figure out how to be together without the drama of stalkers and kidnappings and lighthouse rescues. Sarah laughed. Think we can manage that? I think we can manage anything, as long as we're together. 6 months later, Marcus and Sarah sat on the deck of their new apartment. Watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, the view wasn't as dramatic as the lighthouse, but it was peaceful, and peace was exactly what they both needed. Any word on Luke's trial? Sarah asked, curled up against Marcus's side. Rivera called this morning. Deal. Psychiatric facility instead of prison, with mandatory therapy and supervised release after 5 years. Marcus absently stroked Sarah's hair. The DA's considering it. How do you feel about that? Marcus considered the question. Honestly, I think it's probably the right call. Luke needs help, not punishment. Prison would just make him worse. And David, still in Seattle, sent a letter last week apologizing for his brother's actions. He's offered to pay for your therapy, any medical bills, whatever you need. Sarah was quiet for a moment. It's strange, isn't it? How this whole thing started because Luke thought David was the threat, when really David was just trying to live. His life, the mind sees what it wants to see. Luke needed David to be the villain, so he could be the hero. Marcus pressed a kiss to the top of Sarah's head. But that's over now. We're writing our own story. What kind of story do you think it'll be? Marcus smiled, hopefully a boring one. No more kidnappings, no more lighthouse rescues, no more dramatic revelations. Just us figuring out how to be happy together. That sounds perfect. He sat in comfortable silence, watching the last of the daylight fade. In the distance, they could see the lighthouse where their story had reached its climax. Its beacon now a symbol of hope rather than fear. Marcus? Yeah? Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Luke had never gotten obsessed with me? If he'd gotten help earlier, if his family had intervened, if circumstances had been different? Marcus considered the question. Sometimes. But then I remember that we can't change the past. We can only learn from it and try to do better going forward. Do you think Luke was right about us? I mean, about proving that you loved me? I think Luke was sick, and he did terrible things for what he believed were good reasons. But that doesn't make his actions right. And it doesn't mean we owe our happiness to his twisted logic. Marcus tilted Sarah's chin up to meet his eyes. We would have found our way to each other eventually. Maybe it would have taken longer. Maybe we would have been more careful. But real love has a way of making itself known. Sarah smiled. That version better. Me too. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought them together. Luke Morrison had been wrong about many things, but he'd been right about one. Real love did move heaven and earth to protect what mattered most. The difference was, real love also knew when to let go. Luke's obsession had been about possession, about control, about forcing someone to choose him. But Marcus's love was about freedom, the freedom to choose, to grow, to be happy, even if that happiness didn't include him. The fact that Sarah had chosen him anyway, freely and without coercion, made their love real in a way that Luke's obsession never could have been. I love you, Sarah said softly, as if reading his thoughts. I love you too, Marcus replied, and meant it with every fiber of his being. In the distance, the lighthouse beam swept across the water, no longer a beacon of danger but a symbol of hope. Some storms passed, some rescues were successful, sometimes if you were very lucky. Love found a way to triumph over obsession. Their story was no longer about running from the past, but about building a future together. And that, Marcus thought, was the best kind of story of all. The courthouse steps were busy with the usual mix of lawyers, defendants, and families. Marcus and Sarah stood at the top, having just finished giving their victim impact statements at Luke Morrison's sentencing hearing. 5 years in a psychiatric facility with mandatory therapy and supervised release, Sarah said, reading from the paperwork. It feels surreal that it's finally over. How do you feel? Marcus asked, studying her face for any sign of distress. Relieved, sad, hopeful. Sarah folded the papers and slipped them into her purse. Meant what I said in there. I hope he gets the help he needs. Marcus nodded. He'd been struck by Sarah's grace during the hearing, her ability to acknowledge the harm Luke had caused, while still expressing hope for his recovery. It was one of the many reasons he loved her. What did you think of what his lawyer said about Luke expressing genuine remorse? I think Luke believes he's sorry. Whether that's the same thing as genuine remorse, I don't know. Sarah shrugged, but that's not my problem to solve anymore. They walked down the steps together, hands intertwined. At the bottom, Detective Rivera was waiting for them. How are you two holding up? She asked. Better than expected, Marcus replied. Any word on David? He's doing well. Started his own construction company in Seattle. Has a girlfriend. Seems to be moving on with his life. He asked me to tell you both that he's glad you're happy. Sarah smiled. That's nice to hear. There's something else, Rivera said, her expression growing serious. Luke's therapist at the facility wants to speak with you both. Not about the case that's closed, but about helping other victims of stalking and obsession, she thinks. Your story could help people. Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. What kind of help? Speaking at seminars, maybe writing about your experience, helping people understand the warning signs of obsessive behavior she thinks you could prevent. Other situations like this, Sarah was quiet for a moment. I'll think about it. No pressure. But if you decide you want to help, she's got a whole program set up. Could make a real difference. As Rivera walked away, Marcus and Sarah made their way to their car. The late afternoon sun was warm on their faces, and the city buzzed with life around them. What do you think? Marcus asked, as they drove home about the speaking thing. I think it might be good. Let's turn something terrible into something positive. Sarah gazed out the window. What do you think? Think you'd be amazing at it. You have a way of making people feel heard, understood. If we can help even one person recognize the signs of obsession before it goes too far, then maybe Luke's story becomes part of something bigger than just his illness. They pulled into their driveway, the small house they'd bought together looking warm and inviting in the golden light. It was a far cry from the lighthouse where their story had reached its climax, but it was theirs. Marcus. Yeah, I have something to tell you. Marcus felt his heart skip. Sarah's tone was excited but nervous, and he couldn't read her expression. What is it? Instead of answering, Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a small white stick. Took Marcus a moment to realize what he was looking at. Is that positive? I'm pregnant? Marcus stared at the pregnancy test, his mind reeling. How long have you known? 3 days? I wanted to wait until after the hearing to tell you. Marcus looked at Sarah, seeing the mixture of joy and uncertainty in her eyes. How do you feel? About it? Terrified? Excited? Overwhelmed? Sarah's voice was soft. How do you feel about it? Marcus thought about everything they'd been through, everything they'd overcome. A year ago, Sarah had been running from an obsessed stalker. Now, she was carrying his child. I feel like the luckiest man alive, he said, pulling her into his arms. Even though we haven't been trying? Even though it's maybe sooner than we planned? Especially because of that? The best things in life don't wait for convenient timing. Marcus kissed her forehead. We're going to be parents. We're going to be parents, Sarah agreed, and her smile was radiant as they walked toward their house together. Marcus reflected on this strange journey that had brought them to this moment. Luke Morrison had been wrong about many things, but he'd been right about one. Sometimes the most twisted paths to the most beautiful destinations. Their story had begun with obsession and fear, but it was ending with love and hope. And now, with new life growing between them, they had the chance to write the next chapter together. The lighthouse beam swept across the distant water. It's no longer a symbol of danger, but of guidance, showing safe passage home. And Marcus and Sarah, hand in hand, walked into their future together, ready for whatever came next. What did you think of this thrilling journey? Share your favorite moment in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest tales. What kind of story would you like to hear next?